Hello and welcome to Standard Sports Ashes coverage, where the Ashes is, as a contest anyway, over. I'm joined by Will McPherson in Melbourne, where Australia have wrapped up a 3-0 series victory over England. They've won by an innings despite being bowled out for 267 yesterday, which takes a bit of doing, Will. Your immediate reaction to what's been a shocking series for England, really?
It's been a shocking series, you're right, but it's also been a particularly shocking test match. England made 4 changes after Adelaide. They talked a lot. They made some big statements for some big meetings, and they backed it up with, their last performance of the year and their worst performance of the year. To be honest, it's been a tough old year. They've lost 9 games. They've won 1 of their last 12, I believe, and they're just really in disarray with the batting. They're bowled out for 68 on the final day. That's their lowest total in Australia since 1904. The test match lasted just 7 sessions. It was the shortest test in Australia for about 70 years, I think. All the records are bad. They recorded 2 more ducks to make it 54 for the year. Their batters are averaging 19 in this series per wicket. Joe Root's been the only batter to stand up this year. It was the same today. He only made 28, but he was fighting a losing battle on his own. From the moment Ben Stokes got out to a lovely ball from Mitchell Starc, which Stokes just couldn't keep out, it was always going to happen quite quickly, and it really did. Scott Boland on debut for Australia ended up with figures of 6 for 7, which is just absolutely unbelievable. It's the second cheapest 6 forever, I think, and just a quite incredible conclusion to the game. What happened last night on the second evening, when Australia thundered in and bowled absolutely beautifully, was kind of excusable. You'd say, England got out. One of them was a night watchman. The top 3 none of them are desperately experienced at test level, and Australia were just a bit too good for them. Today, I wouldn't necessarily say that was the case. It was pretty supine stuff, and England just rolled over, and the Ashes are gone inside 12 days.
So plenty of cause for optimism then, with two tests still to go, if we get there, given the COVID situation. We're going to have plenty of time to kind of carry out the post-mortem, I suppose, on what happens next for this England test team. But it looks like, heads will roll, whether that's at coaching level, whether that's Joe Root's captaincy or in playing personnel.
There has to be changes. There has to be changes to the way England think about the whole game. I mean that as in all 3 formats. They've got to give a bit more love to Test cricket. They've got to become quite a little bit less Ashes-centric, I think, and define everything by the Ashes. They've got to respect their other opponents a bit more. There will be changes in personnel. I don't think it's at all certain that any of the chief executive, director of cricket, head coach or captain are in post by the start of a new season. And of course, the ECB don't currently have a chairman either. So they're the kind of 5 biggest leadership positions in the English game, and none of them are in a certain position. I think Chris Silverwood, the head coach, is at most risk. He's been asked to be a kind of head coach selection supremo. I don't think, sadly, that is a role that he is cut out for. I don't think many people would be cut out for that because it's such a savagely big job. But I don't think specifically Silverwood is the right man for it. So the next few weeks are very interesting. People are playing for their careers over the next 2 games. There are half a dozen English players who, both young and old, who could come out of this tour never playing again. So yeah, there is still a lot at stake on an individual level for England in these last 2 tests.
On Australia, then, I mean, they've been ruthless, really. You can almost see the surprise, I think, in them at how meekly England have rolled over at times in this series. But they didn't have an ideal build-up either. And some of the players that have come in, people like Cam Green, Alex Carey, obviously Boland in this test, Richardson in the last one, have done brilliantly. They've been good, but Steve Smith's been relatively quiet. Pat Cummins missed a game. Josh Hazelwood's missed 2. I mean, this could have been worse for England. They haven't been at their very, very best.
It could have been worse. I think Australia have shown themselves to be a more adaptable, deeper side than I maybe would have realised before the series began. They've obviously brought in some bowlers who've done absolutely fantastically. Jai Richardson took his maiden 5 for in Adelaide. Scott Boland's taken 1 on Boxing Day. Michael Neser came into the team and did pretty well. Josh Hazelwood hasn't been around since the first test. It's phenomenal, really, that they've done quite as well as they have, given what's gone on. Cameron Green is a player who's improving them as a side. He's not pulling his weight with the bat, but that fifth bowling option is superb for them, and he took the winning wicket today, which is something I'm sure he'll never forget. Alex Carey is an upgrade on Tim Payne as a cricketer, and frankly, Cummins and Smith, the leadership duo, have proved perfect. They've hit the ground running, and I don't think Tim Payne's been missed in any department really. So. They are at the top of their game at the moment. They're brutal in home conditions. They really get up for Ashes cricket, and they've taught England a few very painful lessons here.
Exactly that. Well, we'll be back ahead of the fourth test to preview that game. There'll be plenty more fallout between now and then, I'm sure, both from the England and the Australia side, really, on the COVID front. But Will, cheers for joining us throughout what's been a bleak series so far for England. And we'll see you ahead of the fourth test.